Amy.
Happy.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé, Season 11, Episode 20, also known as the Tell-All Part 2.
Part 2 et c'est fini.
C'est tellement fini. Je suis ravie.
Tellement.
Okay. And we also watched Match Me Abroad, Season 2, Episode 2. So that is coming up.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. After we dig in. Wow. I was so disappointed in this episode. I give it a 0 out of 10. What is your mark?
I would have to give it a similar rating. I think I'm going to give it a 1 because I think I laughed.
You did.
I think so.
From disgust or actual humor?
I'm not entirely sure. It could have been from awkwardness, but maybe I'll figure it out as we start talking.
Well, you think about it. Let's talk about the 1-2 before we get deep into this fiasco of a show. 1, rate, review, follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. 2, watch the podcast on YouTube at 90 Day Fiancé, honestly. So now, as Sean would say, we have a lot to unpack here.
Okay.
Did you hear the rumor that this is Sean's last season?
No.
As host? I don't know if there's any truth to that rumor whatsoever, but I did see that briefly somewhere, and I thought, that'd be nice if they make a change.
That would be nice. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because despite how young she looks, she's like 60 something, right?
Yeah, she's older. I don't know exactly what her age is. There's no age limit on being a host of a TV show, but I think that they could definitely go with somebody who's got a little bit more oomph, a little bit more spice, like they do when they do the 90 Day UK tell-alls. Those are so funny.
Or even anything with, oh shoot, now his name's evading me.
Not John.
Nope, not John. Andy?
Andy Cohen?
Andy Cohen, yes.
That's a different network.
No, I know. But I mean someone like that. Someone who watches the show, someone who's invested, someone who watches the show, might I repeat that?
Yes.
Just someone who knows what's going on, who is not just sitting there being fed all these questions. Because I feel like had she been more involved, she would have been a lot more intrigued about the different aspects of the show that she didn't, or she wasn't fed questions for regarding. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to clarify that I'm not saying that she's old and she should retire. She looks phenomenal for her age. It's just, it would be nice to have a change. And if that change involves not having her, that would make us all very happy. I don't think it's actually going to change the quality of the show, but I think it's going to change the quality of the tell-alls.
Yes, let us hope so. And in the meantime, we have to go back to Matt Amani. I guess
Why did her name keep changing? I remember when we first met the couple, we were like, Amani, Armani, like we were very confused at the beginning. And it was Amani, and now it's a Minnie. So now she's changing her face and her name.
Who knows?
Yeah, who cares? Anyway, let's continue.
Who cares? But there's all this stuff between Amani and Shekinah. Shekinah kind of starts off the show. She offends the throuple, as well as Sean and Aaliyah, because she had this comment apparently that she made on social media where she had asked Ani, or she had asked Amani if Ani was trans.
Did you see the link that I sent you?
Yes, I did.
So we actually, to the listeners, we found the apparently leaked text messages. And at no point was Amani offended. She laughed about that, and she said something like, I can see how you would think that way because she has strong features and she's 6'1" or something. But she was laughing about it. And at no point did she say, that's incredibly inappropriate. I am offended. Why would you ask? And is it you asking? Or she did say, is it you asking or is it Sarper? And she's like, no, it's me. Sarper believes that she's a woman. So for Amani to come on, or Amani, and go on about how, everyone was offended by it is just bollocks. Complete bollocks.
You know what? I'm so tired of this discussion. I'm so tired of her and Shekinah and the antics that they get up to, the animosity, the mean girlness, the throwing of insults, complaining about each other. that I don't even want to talk about it. Like I found when I was watching it, I found that I was just getting so tired and I just wanted to turn it off and go to sleep because that would be infinitely better than watching any more of these two go at each other. They are so disgusting, so juvenile. It irritated me to no end that we were focusing in on these two women in particular and their beef with each other over many different topics, not just this one question. And I thought, is there really not enough other subject matter here that you guys could have discussed? Are there really not any other questions that you could have explored with the other couples or with these two, even if you had to dwell on them any longer, which I believe was not necessary? Because it's nothingness. It's just pure mean spirited
Pe-
garbage.
peacocking.
And that,
At
mhm,
least peacocks are beautiful.
at least they are. And these
And
two with their double green dresses.
completely and
Ugh.
utterly natural. The peacocks, I mean.
Mm, mm,
And it seemed as though production was trying to put Shekinah in, like, they were trying to villainize her,
mhm.
where you know how I feel about her, or at least
Yes.
what we've seen. But I really felt like they were trying to villainize her during this entire thing, and it was completely and utterly inappropriate. It was completely and utterly foundless. I was just so disappointed with, as you said, with the focus that was on them. And, we'll get into it. But with Danielle coming on, I'm like, this is just so stupid. Can we talk about the content of the show as we have seen throughout the season? Why is this coming up? This is so stupid.
I don't know. It's as if they completely forgot what happened this season and they decided, oh, we don't have any material, so let's invent some new crap to put into this show to make it super, super spicy and exciting for everybody, when in fact it had the opposite effect. It didn't seem like any of what they were discussing was relevant to the season. And who cares if you guys don't get along? That's not the point. That's not why we watch the show. We don't watch 90 Day to Fiancé. We don't watch 90 Day Fiancé in order to see whether or not the cast members will become BFFs together. It's all about the relationships. Why aren't we focusing on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
So
I found this episode to be complete and utter garbage. I don't even want to talk about it, but
exactly.
here we are.
Here we are.
So going back to the whole trans comment with Ani, I'm really glad that Aaliyah spoke up. I felt like she spoke very clearly, concise,
Mhm.
and without accusation. I felt like she kind of lost me during the last couple episodes, but she won me back over with being so vulnerable and honest with everyone. I thought that was really beautiful, and it was a great way to break up the absolute baloney that was going on.
Yeah,
She's
when we get to them, the show takes a slight turn for the better. But when
Mhm.
we're at the beginning and the middle of the show, it's so terrible. And like you said, bringing on people like Danielle, what the heck does Danielle have to do with anything? I can't even remember as I'm thinking about it now which couple she was there. Was it for Juan and Jessica?
Mhm.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Well, let's wrap up quickly with Matt and Minnie and Ani. The only really relevant stuff that was there was the sex question again, which was brought up. Why isn't Minnie having sex on her own with Ani if Matt is with Ani?
Mhm.
And that question really resonated with me because I started thinking, okay, remember that episode where Ani was saying, I'm only in this relationship in order to be with you, Amini? After Amini took that complete temper tantrum and melted down, and then Ani had to go and chase her and soothe her.
And I
So,
love you more than him.
yeah. So if that was true, then why would they not be having their own intimacy together without Matt? It does not add up to me that Ani is spending alone time with Matt, but not with Ani. What?
And arguably, there's so much more opportunity for the two of them to have like little adventures on their own, like going to the bathroom for an additional 30 seconds or something. You could have like a quick little makeout session in the bathroom. There's so many different things that they could have done that doesn't involve, having your own hotel room and spending an entire night together. You could have
Mhm.
those little intimate moments, and we don't hear anything about it. And honestly, I really don't give a shit because none of it matters. And, from the very beginning, Minnie has been saying, and even Matt's been saying, that she wants to live her gay fantasy. And then we find out that Minnie's been working too much and hasn't had the time, but she's going to make the time this weekend. What complete and utter baloney.
That was very disingenuous for me. I didn't believe her for a second.
No, I didn't
I'm going to
believe any
fly
of
down
it.
there. First of all, the drive is what, 20 minutes? Why are you flying? And that she's actually going to take the time out? No, I don't believe that at all. But Sean does ask a relevant question here. Kudos to Sean. Yay, finally one good question. Is the relationship a scam? She asks the other cast members. They seem to be kind of 50-50 on that. Yeah, me
The hand
too.
raising.
Hand
Even
goes up.
Sean was like, anyone?
Mhm.
And Sean kept her hand up.
And even Amini says that she believes Ani will leave the relationship if she doesn't get what she wants, which Amini believes is money. So if you're paying for this woman to be your girlfriend, surely that's a red flag. And then the other red flag was that she didn't know, and I guess neither did Matt, although this could have been a pretense as well, that Ani is still dancing at the strip club.
Well, Minnie says that no, she's not dancing anymore. And then Ani was like, yes, I am. And she said that Minnie was saying something. I mean, I don't even want to get into this, but I'm going to say it because I've already started talking. She was saying, she kept trying to send her like $4,000, $4,000, $4,000. Where are you living that it costs you $4,000 for rent?
I think it was $2,000 a month. She said that the rent was $2,000 a month, which is still a lot. Mexico, oh, I don't get it.
I pay less than that.
I don't know.
Anyway, none of this makes any sense. I don't care. Can we just okay, one last thing. I think it was when, they all did that walk off the break thing. And after the whole blow up with Shekinah, and Amini says, I'll say sorry just to say it because I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
And now I'm sorry. I'm ready to move on.
That really didn't come out right. I think what she meant was, I'm going to say sorry if that's what it takes in order to make things right again. I'm ready to do that. But it came off as, like you said, I'm just going to do it in order to do it. And I don't actually mean it. I mean, it could have been that way as well. But yeah. One final point from me on this couple/throuple is the topic of divorce. They say they've hired a divorce lawyer in order to get the process started. And they say that Amini isn't wearing a ring anymore in order to psychologically prepare herself for becoming divorced.
Wow.
Yeah, that's such a big step. I don't believe any of it.
I mean, if this divorce lawyer wants to stay licensed, the first thing that they're going to say is, this is immigration fraud and I will not be a part of it. So even if they say that they've hired one, until they find out all the information, they're going to fire them as clients.
Yeah.
Good luck finding a lawyer who's going to take this on. Ethically, this is wrong.
Exactly.
So great.
Exactly. And if anybody is watching from immigration, and we all know that immigration is a very hot topic in the United States right now, if there is even the slightest hint that something fraudulent is taking place, this is not the time to be advertising it on television. You think? Yeah. All right. Up next, we have a little break. There's another fight between Shekinah and Amuni. Shekinah and Amani. It's both despicable behavior. Then when they go back on stage, Sarper decides he's going to fix everything by presenting Shekinah with a gift.
Oh, I didn't even write this down, but I do remember this.
So he gives her the gymongous diamond ring / wedding band that he says to everybody, this is like half of my savings that I had in Turkey. So he spent a huge amount of money on buying this ring for her. And I thought it was very fitting that it takes this act of spending a huge amount of money on Shekinah in order to soothe her to the point where she is then civil to him. Because up until this point, she had not even been looking at his eyes, saying nice things. She'd been complaining, whining, just slagging him off. And then as soon as she gets a piece of big ass jewelry, she's all nice again. Like, how fake is that?
She loved the attention. Honestly, like, I really feel for Sarper. I think he played it well. I mean, given the fact that they knew that they were going on the tell-all, I think that he had planned it because he has a heart and he wanted to surprise her, but then it was just like, you know what, F it. I'm just gonna do it now because she's just gonna be a saucy person.
Bitch.
Well, I'm not. Yeah.
But he obviously pre-planned it because he just had to walk a little bit off stage and the production or
Production.
crew member handed him the box. So they knew
Yeah.
he wanted to do it. So he had intended to give her this big gesture ring during the show so that they both get the attention.
But it probably wasn't at that specific point.
Yes, valid. But he's smart enough to know that the only way to calm her down is to buy her jewelry. And what does that say about your relationship? That it takes a big expense. Your love is contingent on your partner buying you something. That's gross.
And apparently it took half of his savings from Turkey.
Yes.
And how much do you want to bet she's going to blame him for that later? Well, why don't you have more money? Why don't you? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Done.
Let's move on. We're reading on. Jessica and Juan.
Lord, my glasses are dirty.
Juan describes his life as falling apart economically. That's pretty sad. We learn that he's in debt.
Economically, sir?
Just economically, yes. In many other ways too, it could be said. We don't know how large an amount of debt he's in, but we do know he is in debt, and he's determined to take care of that himself. He doesn't want to burden Jessica with that. Fair enough. He does
I think that's quite great that he has his own investments, and we can tell, in comparison to other couples, he's not in this for the money, obviously. But it's nice to know that, even though he's been living this lavish lifestyle with the cruise ship, that he's been saving, he's been investing, and investing in his future. Whether or not Jessica was involved in that time, I really don't care. But I think it's, oh God, here I am with the words again. Commendable.
Okay.
That was difficult. It was commendable that, he maintains all of that outside of his family with Jessica, and he doesn't want to burden her with his debt, because obviously there are the 3 kids and, just their living expenses while they're there. So I was just really happy to hear that he had endeavors outside of the cruise ship. It wasn't, he would be on the cruise for 6 to 8 months and have some time off and just go and spend his money willy-nilly. Like, he's actually been really smart with his money until this point. I
must have been asleep because I didn't hear any of that. I think I blocked out any of the part of him being a smart saver and putting his pennies into a little jar, keeping them safe.
Well, he has the investments. He said he has a couple investment properties.
Great. Oh, yeah. Wasn't he renovating in the previous season? Didn't we see him renovating
when they went to go visit?
Yeah. For rental
and I think
house.
I want to say he has 3, but I don't know if they're all under renos or if he's renting 2 when he's doing renos on 1. I don't trust my memory at this point. Let's be serious. Anyway, Jessica and or her ex-husband bought one of the kids a horse.
Yeah.
My question is, does that horse live in a barn with a door?
I'm sure the horse gets a door on his or her barn. I think it was a her. Anyway. Yeah,
I'm
good point.
Sure. God, I was being so pithy when I was writing these.
The kid getting a horse or a pony, it looked more like a pony, was pretty outrageous. I guess we continue the tradition of never saying no to your children. This is a great indicator of that.
Does anyone know how much it costs to buy a horse, to house a horse, to feed a horse?
It's very expensive.
It's insanely expensive.
There's boarding and vet and, like you said, food, many expenses. Plus, I think that the kid wants to ride the horse. That would be the whole point. So you got to get lessons, you got to get equipment, saddle, bridle, all of that stuff. Yeah, hugely expensive to get into horsemanship, especially if you're at the tender age of 8 or whatever it is. Okay.
I just had a really stupid thought.
Oh?
Is she going to hang one or 2 of those stupid little saying things on the horse? Is she going to use that horse for not advertising, but I don't know, live, laugh, love, whatever.
Yeah.
Or pull something off the wall, put it on the horse, put it back on the wall. It just seems to be like it's another place to put words for her.
No doubt. Yes. I'm Can I talk
Anyway,
about Juan though and his job stuff? Because this was pretty interesting.
go
He's
ahead.
got the green card.
Yes.
He has not found a job he likes. And this is the point where they bring in Danielle, who has nothing to do with anything. It's like totally unnecessary guest. And the only connection that they make between her and Juan and Jessica is that, well, she knows what it's like to have your partner cheat on you. Great. So come in and comment on this.
And not
Yeah.
just that, but with a partner who works in the service industry
Oh,
and how
yes.
difficult that can be. And even Danielle made this like comment of, having a partner that works in the service industry and having children and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, ma'am, I'm pretty sure last we heard about you and your children is kicking a coconut,
Cooking a coconut cooking.
a coconut around.
Yes.
So Danielle
Was
doesn't
that a
have,
fertility ritual? I don't think that was. I think that was like a
it
good
was probably,
vibes ritual.
could be a cleansing thing. I don't know. I just remember her bringing like the bananas and all the fruit down to
To the river?
yeah, and like, ma'am, people could eat that. That just,
I know.
and then planting the banana tree.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
So
I thought she was so unnecessary, but I think like it felt like they brought her on not for Jessica and Juan, but because of the feud between her and Shekinah, which was just so completely and utterly useless. I don't care. Do you care?
Are you asking me or is that a rhetorical question?
No, I was legit asking you.
Oh, I couldn't give a flying fig. No.
Fig.
Mm.
The fig trees in Portugal.
Oh, joy. I would love a fig right now. Just pluck them from the tree. Oh, warm from the sun. Okay, yeah, what the hell is Danielle doing here? I couldn't care less.
And then
Blech.
they bring on Megan.
And then oh my God, Megan.
I knew that they were going to bring on Megan.
No
It
brainer.
seemed like it was a shoo-in that she was going to be there. I feel like obviously she was hot right off the bat. That's not the right term, is it?
I don't know, but it works. Hot off the press. She there was no bat. I don't know.
And you know what I'm trying to say. She
Yeah.
came out guns blazing. There we go.
That
We'll
will
take
do.
that one. And I felt like Juan's response to her was so mature. It was so calm. It was, what did I say? He spoke very well in response to whatever she was saying. Calm.
Beautifully calm. Very
And
composed.
then she comes out. I've been in this relationship since day one, ma'am. And I'm going to call her ma'am. You're not in this relationship. And, Jessica, like, she tried, I don't know what's with my words today, but I want to use the word scuttle. She scuttles around and she's like, no, this is my relationship. Yeah, she's my best friend, but blah, blah. But at no point does she say, like, back off. And then Megan pipes up and she's like, what did she say? Get out, bitch, or something?
Bitch, bye.
Thank you. Oh, my Lord.
Megan proving once again that she has no class. Mm-hmm.
As a therapist, how are she and Megan supposed to adhere to? I mean, I don't know what kind of quote unquote therapists they are, but how are they supposed to adhere to their ethics and morality portion of their license, assuming that's part of their license, when this is what they're portraying on TV? I'm pretty sure whoever their licensing agent is not going to give them a pass. And it's kind of like, what was it, the last resort with those quote unquote therapists and the baloney that they were spewing? how are they going to maintain their licenses, which we know that they didn't even have to begin with?
Yeah, well, that's the point. They don't have licenses. And if Jessica and Megan are indeed therapists, in quotation marks, they might be actually life coaches, which, as we all know, you don't really have to have any credentials for. You can just call yourself a life coach, and no governing body is going to criticize what you do or make sure that you're doing it the correct way. It's just whatever you choose goes.
Blows my mind. If you are giving anyone life advice, you need to either be, a really good friend, you need to be experienced in life, preferably elderly, so you legit have experience in life, and your walls aren't plastered with
Stupid platitudes.
thank you for taking that word out of my mouth, because I don't know how long it would have taken me to find it. And then
It's always greener.
Danielle asked Juan a question. I didn't actually write the question down, but Megan starts answering for Juan. And Danielle looked at Megan and she's like, I'd like Juan to answer. That may have been the moment that I laughed. That maybe I should write that down. Maybe we'll figure out which one I laughed at. Was
So
it that one?
that was the one. I agree. That was a
It could have
wonderful
been.
moment because Megan, that wasn't the first time that Megan was speaking for Juan, because she was asking questions or other people were asking questions and she was stepping in and speaking for him, which was rather rich. But then when Danielle kind of snapped back and said, no, I want to hear from Juan if he could use his words, that was fantastic. I love that moment.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And I had another point. As a life coach, as a counselor, as a therapist, whatever these people are, you're not supposed to put words in your clients' mouths. And here she is trying to answer for Juan.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that was obviously, I check up on things online, and there has been conjecture online that, and I think it was the part one where Sean asked, the women, has anyone ever been with another woman? And people were theorizing that Jessica and Megan hooked up once, and it was just a one-off for Jessica because she was not sober, and then Megan hung on to it. And now she thinks that she has this special bond, and now she's almost a part of the throuple, even though she's married. I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all I have to say.
Okay. That's wonderful. My comments at this point will be limited to Juan and his job because I thought this was a fascinating portion of the show. When the cast starts talking about, well, what does Juan love to do? What's his passion? What's he interested in? Because the overall sentiment that you get from both Jessica and Megan is that Juan has to work in Torrington. He has to find a job locally. Even if he hates it, he's got to do it because he goddamn owes it to them, both of them, to work hard in Torrington and never leave his wife or his child's side.
Didn't they say that like Nashville's like 40 minutes away or something? Like a bigger city is within like a 30-40 minute drive?
Again, I fell asleep. I did not hear that.
Okay. Also, geography is not my forte, so I apologize to the listeners if you're confused about the geographical location of my commentary.
So Juan is to completely ignore anything that he's interested in or feels passionate about and instead just do these stupid jobs that he absolutely deplores. Even the ones, as he said, where he doesn't get a call back, because Megan was making out as if he was getting tons of job offers, but he was turning everything down because he doesn't want to do menial jobs or work he's not interested in. But in fact, he was like, well, I actually never got a call back from that job. So what are you even talking about?
And Megan said, well, I think Sean asked her, like, how many jobs has Juan refused? Because she was saying, my husband and I have been calling around, giving him great. It wasn't even references. It was like pre-references. What is that?
I don't know.
Either way. So they were calling ahead. So it wasn't even for references. So they're just calling and being like, hey, you should hire this guy, whatever. And Sean asked how many. And she was like, I don't know, 50. And then even Jessica was like, well, that's not quite right because, he's had maybe 5 that he's refused.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm pretty sure Megan and her husband are not calling 50 different places after Juan submits his resume, being like, hey, you should hire this guy. And if so, you're losing credibility with your referencing. So, what references? Language is hard. Anyway,
I I I was just astonished that everybody on the Torrington side could completely ignore Juan's wishes and try to force him into a position where he is not happy or comfortable or enjoying his day-to-day life, and that the cruise idea is completely disregarded now. I don't know if you caught this, but at the very end of the show, when Mark was saying goodbye to Juan, he said very quickly and quietly, you should look into that. So this was something that they had been discussing on the show, but they obviously had cut out. He said to Juan, you should really look into that private cruise idea. So they had been tossing around an idea that he could, as an alternative to going away for 6 to 8 months on a big cruise ship, look for a job on a little ship, kind of like the Below Deck that you and I like to watch from time to time.
yes.
Look, that kind of idea where it's a private yacht and they need crew. He could go do that, and it's shorter terms so that he could come home more often. And like the black and whiteness of this, it's either you've got to stay in Torrington, do a crappy job shoveling shit, or you go away for most of the year and live on a cruise ship far away from your wife and your child. There is a middle ground, guys. You don't have to make it so impossible to choose between those two things. And by the way, why are you completely ignoring his desires and wishes? Doesn't he deserve happiness in his work just as much as anybody else does? Okay.
And I'm saying that based on Jessica's perspective, because now he's a father of 3. Even though the other 2 have a father who's actively involved, that made me so mad. Finding out that, she has them, like 4 days a week and then
3 with the dad. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So why can't Juan, go off for 3 days and do his thing? I was just Googling like what the nearest city was, but apparently I was completely off. So I don't know, but it was nice that Mark was trying to offer a middle ground, though I'm jumping ahead, but at the end, Jessica said, if he can't find a job that he likes here, that's the last resort for him to go back on the cruise line. And I think that's totally fair. I think that's a great concession on her part, whether or not it's true.
See, that's where
I don't
think.
I don't believe that she would ever allow that to happen because she's going to freak out. Oh, I'm a single mom again, blah, blah. But
Can't trust you.
Yeah.
You
And
cheated before.
I'm not pooping on single moms. Want to clarify that in case that's how it sounded. Jessica is just useless.
Excellent. Speaking of the cheating on thing, we did learn that all of Juan's social media is on Jessica's phone, so she has access to all of that, which I thought was a great idea for rebuilding trust after an infidelity.
I actually completely forgot about that, but you're right. And for whomever asked, oh, don't you get messages from women all the time? I don't know if that was Sean or whoever, but it was like all the time. Well, do you respond? Sometimes, I'm a nice guy. I think he likes the attention. I think he likes the fame. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just responded and he was like, thanks. And that's his response. But, Megan's going to come in.
Yeah. I'm surprised his social media isn't on her phone as well.
It'd be so funny, but yeah.
Scary. There is another break where things quickly devolve into a shouting match. This one, it's mostly between Danielle and Shekinah, but also Maddie. Wow.
And the finger pointing, and Danielle's like, get your finger out of my face. And yet she had to walk like 5 paces to get to him.
She had to stand up, walk towards him, and then start pointing her own finger in his face. I know it was horrible. It was awful. It was like a Jerry Springer moment.
This entire show was a Jerry Springer moment. Let's be serious.
Yeah. Just the de-evolution of the tell-all in this particular episode was so sad. And by sad, I mean pathetic.
I just remembered what my laughable moment was. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget to say it.
Okay. So shall we read on?
Yes, please.
Mark and Mina are the final couple. Are they the final couple? Yes, they are.
I don't know.
So we learn out that Mark is Keeping his house in Massachusetts, yay, even though they're living in Boston now.
Totally
Happy
fine.
happy
He
about
gets to
that.
keep his hangar. I think that's fantastic.
We
That's what
also
it's called,
learn
right?
where you keep your plane is a hangar, yes. Mark used to work in a strip club. That was a new revelation. He was a bartender, though, not a dancer.
And then we find out how many other people on the stage at that specific or on that specific stage have been or have either worked in a strip club and or have been strippers.
That's amazing.
I'm not surprised, though I was surprised that Sean told Sarper or made the comment to Sarper that his exotic name of Alex was not sexy.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything to Matt about Hudson. And I meant to look it up, but Ani said her stage name was Eighth.
Yeah, I couldn't quite hear it or understand what it was.
Subtitles said it was AIDE.
Aid.
I felt like she said it with the TH. I meant to look.
Anyway, they've all got weird names and they've all been strippers, including Matt, weirdly. And then we see Jordan come on stage. Of course, she has to be there, but it's all happiness from this point forward because Jordan admits she judged Mina too harshly. Mark admits also that he created the bad situation where he was having private conversations with Jordan and Mina where he was revealing too much to both of them, and that created a bigger problem than there needed to be. So everybody has realized their bad behaviors. Everybody's now accepting of each other. And even Jordan says she's okay with her dad and Mina having more kids. So a lot of growth, a lot of change. That's lovely.
Thought it was quite refreshing that Mark had admitted that he had overshared and that it was his fault and that he had caused the conflict. And I thought that Jordan gave an absolutely solid apology. You know, we've been dissecting apologies for since we started the podcast. Yeah. And, she specified what she was apologizing for. She specified what she should have done. Amazing. And again, you just said growth. And then Mark comes up with, oh, by the way, she's pregnant. And my comment before I saw the rest of it was Mark's definitely joking about that. And Jordan's not in on this joke. She looked worried.
Well, yeah, I wondered about the editing of that because they showed her face and yes, she did look worried. Right. And then the moment after that, when she was saying, yeah, I knew as soon as he said that it was a joke and her face was completely different. I was like, oh, they just spliced that because even if she had been a little surprised and then a moment later, you know how it is sometimes when you're not sure if it's a joke and then you're like, oh, no, that's fine. So to me, that didn't matter either way, but I did think it was kind of in poor taste that he would make that joke for the second time because he made that joke at their wedding as well. It's like, yeah, but just don't joke about that stuff. I don't like those kinds of jokes.
And I really didn't appreciate the fact that Sean decided that she was going to hone in on the whole kid thing. Like, are you trying for kids? And he's like, well, we're not trying for kids. And Sean should have just come out and been like, so you're just raw dogging her? Like, it was just in such poor taste. And God, just that coming out of my mouth and hearing that. Oh God, I'm so sorry to the listeners. Can we edit that out?
While his daughter is on the stage, you're going to ask this question.
So uncalled for. It was so disgusting. Even I felt uncomfortable, and he's not even my dad. Why? It's, and I feel like it's one of those things, people get married and you're like, oh, are you trying for babies? Like, can you just stop asking that question? Because it's so inappropriate.
None of
if they want to talk about it, then that's fine. But don't bring it up. It's none of your business. And also, that's kind of gross. I don't need to know what's going on in your sex life. Happy if you're having one. And obviously, Sean has brought this up several times. Oh, who's having sex? I don't care. Are you happy in your relationship? Excellent. Are you going to have another baby? Is a question.
You don't need to know if you're actively trying to have one in this moment. Not on stage, but later. I totally agree. Asking these sorts of questions in this amount of detail is inappropriate.
Detail.
You
Thank you.
never know what the couple is actually going through. If there's any kind of miscarriage in the background, if there's some
Mhm.
difficulty that they're experiencing, it's just no go territory. Do not ask, do not delve, do not dig. None of that. You may ask a question. Do you intend to have children or do you still want to have more children? But beyond that, unless they volunteer the information, I say no zone, no step, do not enter.
As you say that, that is the most appropriate question that I would have hoped for is, do you hope to have more children?
Mhm. Yeah. So, on the
Why?
topic of kids, they start talking about Clayton. They want to know, and I desperately wanted to know, is Clayton already there? Is he waiting backstage? What's going on? And it was unbelievable to find out that he hasn't been able to come over yet. It's been 11 months since she left for the United States. She hasn't seen him. He hasn't been to visit. She hasn't been to visit. But now that she has her green card, they do plan to go back to France with it as quickly as they possibly can. They're going to
Hmm.
see Clayton, and their hope is that they can bring him back with them. And boy, I hope they keep us updated on this because I really want to know that he's back with his family.
I'm kind of invested in this. I hate to say it, not as much, or like I'm not as invested in this as I am with the David and Sheila thing, but I really want to know what's going on with this poor kid, like what's holding up this transition.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that Mark had said that they're not sure where they're going to be. Like, are they going to stay in Milwaukee or Boston or
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts? Geography is not my strong point.
It's
Apparently,
okay.
neither are words.
Yeah, he
And
mentioned France. He
the
mentioned Paris, the south of France, and
Paris, south
Massachusetts.
of, yeah. So all of the above. But if they go back to France, this is a non-issue. However, because he does have his permanent residence in the States, I think even if they do go to France or Europe or wherever, obviously it would be in the best interest of Clayton to be able to have a passport, to be able to fly around, to have citizenship, to make that movement possible and easier, because you know what it's like to fly with one passport with a traveler who doesn't have the same passport, who has to go into a different line that is vastly longer.
Yeah.
um but I really want to know what's going on with Clayton. And I found that throughout this entire season, Mina has been the only one who has actually given a shit about her kids. With her crying on stage, like I actually teared up about it. I'm like, where is he? What's going on? And you could tell that she actually cares. And I mean, how many of the other couples have kids? Not all of them have been shown. However, we know that Mina and Matt have kids, but that they seem to be the last thing on their minds.
Mina and Matt don't have kids. Minnie and Matt have kids.
You're right.
And we know that Stevie has kids. And of course, Jessica and Juan have kids. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Most of them
All these
do.
people.
It's just basically Joan and Greg. And well, I mean, Shekinah has a daughter, and Sarper has a son who he's not communicating with. Remember the long
Okay,
lost
so
son?
let me wait, who has a long lost son?
Sarper does. The one that he fathered without knowing it, and then found out when the child was about 16 that he'd made a baby with this woman who was Russian, I think. So he's not had any contact with them. You don't remember that from the last season? Where he was having a breakdown because he was like wanting to get in touch with his son, but he didn't know how to do it. And the topic has not come up since, so I don't know where they are with it.
I have not heard of that at all. Well, that reminds me of Arya and Binny with Binny's first kid
Yeah.
and, you know, the woman running away.
Yeah.
I've seen some conjecture online about that, but we won't get into it. But anyway, how stupid of me to forget that so many of these people have children, but yet Mina seems to be the only one who has any emotional or visceral reaction when she talks about him. And it's been that the entire time. Like from knowing her from the very like first or second episode when she starts talking about him. And it's so heartbreaking that they can't be together. And especially after that long, I can't imagine what that would be like. as a mother. So I just really hope I hope the NDA doesn't prevent them from, it probably will, but
You know what? We've got to move on because we have been almost an hour and we haven't even gotten anywhere near to Match Me Abroad. So
oh
let's
Lord.
go through. There is actually one more couple. It's Sean and Aaliyah. Let's run through what happened with them and wrap up this horrendous, yucky show.
That's when you say wrap it up, B. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So Kenny and Armando are the unnecessary guests here. We don't get a lot of input from them, but we don't really need it. I love Kenny and Armando, but I don't know why they're here. Maybe because they're also a gay couple. I don't know. Who cares? Why?
I'm not mad that they were there.
I wasn't mad. I found so much of this to be irrelevant. I was annoyed.
I was irritated that they brought Kenny and Armando out and Jackie at the same time.
Oh God.
Because I felt like Sean had a lot to say to Jackie. And, we were talking about not the last episode, but like the wedding episode where Sean was like, what was Jackie even doing? What was this? What was this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, here we are. We're going to get the answers. Also didn't get the answers.
Nope.
But here it is. The one point that made me laugh when Sean's like, okay, let's talk about your wedding. And male Sean gets up. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. And I was like, oh my God, Sean, what are you doing? And he walks around to Maddie and he fixes his hair.
Yes.
And he's like, I couldn't do it. That was the comedic relief that I needed.
Well, that's interesting because I found that moment completely gratuitous and I was annoyed by that as well. Because I was
really?
like, this is all for show. Yep.
Well, of course it was all for show, but at least it made me laugh.
But it was unnecessary show. Like, if you're going to have a display of emotion, and there was tons of emotion that these two shared in their segment, why do you have to do this stupid act? This little, I'm going to do a fun bit, a little bit of comedy. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I was not happy about it.
And I thought it was unnecessary because just before that is when we had Sarper's little comedy bit, which was 100% towards the throuple.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate Sarper's comedy. I think we could have cut 90% of this episode and just had his comedy. Whether or not it's funny, I don't care. But, like, had you just cut that and had Sean do the whole, like, hair thing, that would have been the comedic relief. And then we wouldn't have needed Sarper's comedy routine thing.
Yeah, they definitely could have cut that. They could have cut a whole bunch.
They could have cut everything.
They didn't need Kenny and Armando there. They didn't need Jackie,
it was nice
really.
to see them.
Sure, it's nice to see them, but they're on plenty of other shows. They do pillow talk almost all the time.
I'd love to see them because I love them. I think they're phenomenal. I think they're fantastic people. Though I do acknowledge that they didn't add a lot to this.
They did not. Zero.
I would really like to see the uncut version of this because I think that they added a lot more that was cut out. But anyway, Sean left for a month and he went to go visit his best friend.
That was outrageous. The fact that he went on the honeymoon, so-called, was it? I don't know for sure. Either way, it's not a good thing to leave your newly married spouse within a week of the wedding. It was very quick. And to go away for a whole month. Also, he's been sleeping with somebody else.
Was it the best friend that he went away with?
We don't know. Also, he gets incredibly mad at Jackie, blames her for the wedding debacle. Okay, I think part of that is deserved because, like you said, we still didn't get a concrete answer on why there wasn't any good timekeeping going on.
What happened?
Jackie says one thing, Sean says another. Leah says a third thing.
Nothing.
Well, she said, oh, well, I was just frozen because the moment I heard about his mom, I'm like, okay, but you heard about that into the days. And it still doesn't make any sense as to why she was so late when there was no professional makeup crew there doing her stuff for her. So it's not like she was stuck in a makeup chair, as somebody described it. Yeah. She was doing it herself. She could have just said, okay, this is good enough. Let's go. Because I don't want to make everybody wait in this sweltering heat for more than an hour. Crazy. We get a couple of good questions. Is Sean attracted to Aaliyah? He says he does not know, which in my book is a no.
That's a no.
That is a no. You know if you're attracted to somebody. And second question,
hang on. I think he sees her more as a model than anything. He
Model?
loves her as a model
A
because
model
he's
of
a
what?
hairstylist.
Oh,
Yeah, so he gets to play with her hair and the makeup and the stylist stuff, and I think he loves that part. But I don't think
oh.
that he finds her attractive in that romantic sense.
Well, definitely not, because we know they're not really having sex. They say that only twice
Not
since they've
together.
no, only twice since they've been married have they been intimate together, which is not a lot if we're looking at this show being taped about a year since the weddings took place, I guess, or a year since the people landed in the US.
Hmm.
Still, not great. And yes, he has been sleeping with somebody else. Aaliyah, meanwhile, has not been going outside the marriage, even though technically she does have permission to do so. The second question that Sean gets asked is, are you in love with Aaliyah? His answer is, yes. That would be a no for me as well. The hesitation,
Yes.
the pause,
To
that's
me,
a lot of thought processing going on in the background, which has a lot more stuff in it than just a yes or a no. And
and also,
when you have
like,
to wait, when you have to think about it that hard, there's definitely a strong no element in that.
well, I think that there's also an element of, maybe your brain isn't working as quickly as it possibly should, i.e., me this evening. However, when you know that you're going on the tell all, you know that you're going to be asked these types of questions. So why aren't you prepared?
Absolutely.
So for him to have that pause was concerning. However, when Aaliyah gives her text speech,
Mm.
that was so heartwarming. It was so emotional. It was so vulnerable. And you could actually see Sean tearing up, or at least I saw that. You could kind of see that connection. And it seemed as though it was one of those like emotional transactional relationships, not the romantic relationship that they're trying to portray. It's he wants to support her in her journey because he understands how difficult it is, or how difficult it can be, because obviously he's not trans. But he wants to support her along the way,
Yep.
whether it's romantic or not. And I think he's been laying down that.
Foundation?
Thank you. Since the very beginning. Douglas doesn't exist anymore. Now it's Aaliyah, but I love Douglas and I'm going to be here for Aaliyah. They did foundation again. They laid down that foundation. He's going to be there for her, which he said on the show. I'm going to be there for you. We're going to get through this together. And I found that very transparent, that he's saying, I'm going to be there for you whether we're together or not, but we're still going to pretend to be together because that's the only way that you're going to be able to be here. Because remember, they went through like every other visa for her to get there. So now she can get her green card and whatever else needs to happen while she's there. I'm glad that he said that he was going to be there to support her. And I'm glad that he is there to support her. I think he could support her a little bit more, but who am I to say that? I thought it was a beautiful moment for her to open up and be that vulnerable, especially after their absolute failure of a wedding. I think had they had the time to be able to say their vows properly, I think that's what she would have wanted to say, but they didn't have the time because it's like, say your stuff, let's have a couple drinks. My mom has to go to the hospital immediately. It was just so rushed they didn't have that time.
I don't have any hope that this couple will survive in married life. I think that they're good friends and that they'll continue to be in each other's lives forever, but I don't think that there's enough of a solid basis for a romantic marriage, a love marriage to survive.
But can they not have a loveless marriage and survive?
I guess so, but people tend to usually have loveless marriages for the sake of the kids. You know how that is, which is
Yeah.
interesting. But and they don't have kids, so why would they bother with that? I don't know. Especially
Convenient.
yeah, but
She's
especially when
she's so
he's
young. He's much older.
yeah. I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I don't know. The only other point that I have for Sean and Aaliyah is that when we were wrapping up the show, he said to her that he was promising to take her on the honeymoon, which of course she deserves to be taken on, which was nice. It was a nice gesture. Again, I'm not so sure that there's anything underneath that. And then for the other goodbyes, the only one that I noted really was Joan and Greg when they said, because Greg is admitting, okay, well, now I know how much my mom wants us to move out. We've got to step it up and speed that process up. He says, we have enough money to move out. So why don't you do it? Why
That was
haven't you
also
done it?
that was my comment. Greg having enough money to move out and yet not. Though at the same time, I can't blame him for not moving out immediately, because if they're planning on getting pregnant immediately, it makes more sense for him to save up more to set them up better. Is that the right term? Anyway, so just be more established before you get pregnant. Do you have any more comments about the last thing? Because I only have one more.
No, I really want to start talking about Match Me Abroad because I'm so sick and tired of 90 Day Fiancé right now.
Okay, I only have one more.
Okay, hit me.
When I think it was Shekinah, and anyway, there was one of the arguments backstage, and Aaliyah was just sitting there, and I think they had a cutaway to her, and she was just like, um, she wasn't involved in the arguments, and she said, I'm just really hungry. And then they cut to her. Oh, I just hit my mic. They cut to her, and she was eating, and she just looked like she was kind of like how you and I are when we're watching this show. She was like, yeah, delicious. I don't know what she was eating, but
Let's go. Let's leave this stuff behind in the dust.
well, I don't have much to say about all these people.
Okay. This is Match Me Abroad, Season 2, Episode 2. Yay! Now we can be happy.
Much more happier.
Goes on her first date. She is very high energy, and I find this a little bit hard to take. If it was me on this date with somebody like Amber, I would not last the entire date. I would check out within about 15 minutes.
We didn't get all of her in one bite though, so I think that production like split it up properly.
What do you mean we didn't get all of her in one bite? You mean they
Well,
broke
they
up her
separated the
segment?
scenes. Yeah, the
Okay.
segment.
Yes. So that helped a little bit, but I felt really badly for her date. I think his name is Kevin.
I tried to type it out every single time, and
I'm not sure if I got that right,
my
but
closed captioning wouldn't catch it either.
yes, that would be good, but no, there was no help. Kevin. Okay, so she's so excited to go on this date with Kevin, the guy whose hand she put on her chest the night before, that she can't even get a sentence out. She's so distracted. She's looking out the window. It's like, ooh, a tree. Oh, a cow. Oh, I love Kevin. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's a bird. She is all over the place.
She was so easy to follow for me.
Really?
She quite clearly has ADHD.
Very much so.
Clearly, I do as well. So as she's doing all of that, I was like, oh, yeah, found that. Like I followed her to the T, but I also found it utterly exhausting. You know, when she arrives and she meets him and he gives her that little stuff, he was like, oh, that's really cute. Can I see it? And I don't know if I looked away. I don't know if I walked away. I don't even know what kind of stuff he gave her, but I thought that was really cute. And then they went on an alpaca adventure.
Yes, they did.
I thought that was adorable. I thought that they laughed a lot together. They seemed to have a lot of fun. And I don't want to spoil it. Do you have anything to say before I spoil it?
Yes. I found that the way that she even was looking at Kevin was like, he's the only man in the world. She's already got the stars in her eyes. She's long gone. She's over the hill, down the valley, in the next field, past the village, and then across the border. And maybe you'll get to her. She is gonzo.
And she has Katerina as the matchmaker, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And she was the one that said she needs to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't surprise me that she was all suns and stars and, oh, this is so perfect. And I felt like she knew that when they did that, the chest thing, the heart touching, weird, not on a first date.
Did you notice whenever Amber's talking to Kevin, she's got her head like this, and she's got like the really big mouth, like showing all teeth. It's so annoying. I I would go crazy. I
It's
think
kind of like it's like a kid going to Disney for the first time.
yes, very
I've never
much.
been to Disney, but I would assume that's what it's. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that.
But the head on the side, like, oh, I'm so coquettish and I'm so happy. You just can't
What does
help
that
but
mean?
be
What does
attracted to
coquettish
me.
mean?
Coquettish, like I'm flirtatious and,
Oh,
full of young energy, pretty coquette, not a croquette. Those are the things you eat. Those are the crunchy, yummy.
well,
Anyway,
that was
she
writing it
is
out.
she is so over the top with her flirtatiousness.
And excitement.
I
She
would
goes from
go
like 0 to
nuts.
100, and there's no in between, and that's a massive turnoff.
Totally.
I would think it's a massive turnoff.
If she is not turned off by the fact that,
Turned off.
yes, that's a double turn off. She was turned off in the past. If she is not turned off in the future about Kevin's circumstances, which she learns about during this date, then he most certainly will be turned off by her over exuberant, overly dramatic, extremely energetic, and kind of in your face positivity.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say earlier is that if I was on a date with somebody who had that kind of attitude, I think that I would deliberately bring up really sad, morose subjects in order to try to get them to come down a little bit because I just can't handle somebody who is at that 100 level all the time.
Like that, it's not just being that positive, but it's just being so smothered by it.
Smothering. Mm-hmm.
You can't be that positive all the time. That's just not realistic. And you know that when someone like approaches you that way, or if someone has that kind of energy, they're going to come down at some point.
That's the other thing. Is she bipolar? Is this a manic depressive personality? Is there a flip side to her extreme happiness, which is an incredibly deep depression? We don't
That
know.
I wasn't leaning towards the bipolar, but that's entirely possible. I was just saying, with the positive comes the negative, and
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of in between. And she was just, again, with the
Yeah. I think
smothering.
she's just so determined that every first date she has is going to be the date that leads her down the aisle eventually. It's going to turn out to be the one that she has to have this kind of insatiable appetite for positivity, happiness, optimism, excitement, fun, energy. Oh, it is like puking rainbows.
You know what? We all need to sleep sometimes.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, do you want to make the big reveal of what she finds out?
That he lives with his entire family.
Yes.
Not just, I don't know if it was his mom and his dad, but at least his mom and his grandparents and
Yeah.
his aunt.
What? Really?
Oh,
I know.
I just wrote down he lives with his entire family. Quadruple exclamation marks, several question marks.
I don't know if I was narcoleptic during this episode or what, but I heard some bits and not other bits. So what I heard him say was, I live with my parents. And then I heard him say something like, but they're my grandparents. Or maybe he said, and also with my grandparents. So I wasn't sure if he was saying his grandparents brought him up and he lives with his grandparents. And I was like, wow, how old are your grandparents? And then maybe his parents and his grandparents all live together and he lives with them, which would be kind of sweet to have 3 generations under one roof.
What kind of freedom would you have there?
It's all irrelevant because according to Amber, this is a non-negotiable.
And I wonder, Katerina, is this your tactic to get her to slow down?
Yeah.
Because she's like full speed ahead, pure racing into this relationship. And then he has this hard stop, non negotiable. I mean, does she have non negotiables? I'm sure we're going to find out. But I feel like him living with his entire family is going to be a non negotiable.
Yeah, I feel like if Amber has any ability to be realistic at all, she will say to Katerina, I can't deal with this. This is on my non-negotiable list. This is not something I'm prepared to deal with. Or if she's going to turn it around and be like, I can be positive about that. That sounds really cute. I'd love
Oh
to
my
meet your
God.
whole family.
You know what? She probably would. I don't. Anyway, can we not talk about that yet? Because I feel really creeped out.
Anyway,
You just
I don't have anything else to say about Amber, so go for it if you have any other comments.
no. I'd love to move on to Harold if we may.
Then let's.
I love the fact that he decided to wear his suspenders despite what Dolly said. He said,
Mhm.
I'm going to double down and I'm going to wear my favorite ones. I'm glad they weren't the measuring tape ones because I don't think that's first date measuring tape first whatever. But I appreciated the fact that she actually supported it. And, she said that it looked okay. What I forget what her words were. But I'm not quite sure about, I don't know if this is a culture thing, but she said that she appreciates the fact that he looks manlier and well groomed. Again, I don't know if that's culture because I don't look at him and I don't think he's effeminate. I don't think he's androgynous.
No, I didn't know what she meant by that either, especially considering the only other contact she's had with him so far is the night before when he arrived. And of course, he's going to
Uh,
be a little bit disheveled and ungroomed or unmanicured as he's just gotten off a plane
and
that has
tired.
been, yeah, who knows how many hours, maybe 20 hours traveling. He's going to look better now that he's had some rest and a chance to shower.
Yep.
And he's also wearing his best shirt and his best suspenders. So, yes, good.
And also, if your suspenders make you feel comfortable, who are we to judge you?
Yeah. Yeah. This trial date, mock date, I found problematic. And a couple of reasons. One is I really see Dolly trying to rewrite Harold's personality, which I think is
Oh,
pretty blatant and kind of awful.
yes.
And secondly, I feel that she's trying to do that without giving him the appropriate coaching first. Like, would it not have made more sense to say to Harold, okay, here's some questions to ask during a first date? Or here's a way to approach somebody that you meet for the very first time. Just like we see when we watch Love on the Spectrum and the dating coach comes in and she says, how would you talk to somebody? And she actually interacts with them, not like throwing them in the deep end saying, go on this mock date and I'm not going to give you any instruction whatsoever on how to handle the situation. She could have done that. She could have given him a little bit of coaching first, then provide having him armed with that information that she's provided, set him out on the mock date to then give him the feedback on this is what you did well. Remember that thing that I coached you on before? You didn't do that. So maybe try to incorporate that here. I did not like that.
Yep. I think you're right because I loved the idea of the practice date, especially with the culture difference and his neurodivergence. I thought that this could have been an excellent opportunity for him to learn like the lay of the land of dating in Singapore versus dating in the States, because obviously there is a culture difference. But I don't think that Dolly had set him up as you had just said. I think that she just like threw him like not to the wolves, but like gave a taste to the wolf. And I think he did really well based on the situation, but she really could have set him up better.
Totally.
She could have, as you said, gave him different questions to ask and just given him a different perspective of what life is like in Singapore versus the States. Because he's coming in here on his blind practice date, only knowing what it's like dating as an American. And I think his ex-girlfriend was from what, Russia?
A Czech Republic.
Czech. Clearly different cultures.
Yeah, and
Why not set him up properly?
not just
Like
that, but
I'm glad that they had the practice date because without that, he would have failed completely. However, he would have succeeded more on his practice date had he had a guideline,
yeah,
had he had any kind of coaching.
yeah,
But he had nothing. It was like he lands, okay, shower, don't be yourself, don't wear those suspenders, but also I like the suspenders. Have fun. It was so awkward and I felt so bad for him. I felt confused for him. I was confused for myself. What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to like set him up to go on a successful date, or are you trying to like
Destroy
watch him
his self-esteem.
fail? Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's what I mean. Destroy his self-esteem. And God, he's so funny. He's so sweet. He's so kind. He has so many phenomenal positive characteristics.
Yeah.
And she keeps leaning on the things that are inconsequential.
Yeah, exactly. When she said to him, "Oh, you," or they both of the women said to him, "You shouldn't have given this painting that you did right off the bat. You should have waited a while until the conversation was flowing and then given it to her." I was like, "What? That doesn't make any sense. That's arbitrary."
Mhm.
If he's offering you a gift, that's a lovely gesture for somebody you've just met within the first few seconds. I thought there was absolutely nothing wrong with that. Why do you have to wait to give your gift to somebody? Is it like now you've earned this, so you're allowed to have it? How disingenuous is that?
I think the only reason to wait is until you're comfortable to give it. And I think if I were to go on a date and a guy was like, "Hey, I want to share this piece of art with you," I'd be like, "Thank you." Because that's showing vulnerability, that's
Mhm.
showing artistry, that's showing personality. And then they want to poo poo all over it.
Yeah. I
Like
don't
I can understand him saying, wanting milk, 2% milk as a drink. I think that was pretty friggin' funny. And the fact that he knew after it came out of his mouth that that was wrong, that was a
Mhm,
thing.
mhm.
And he knew
Yeah,
that.
he
But
did.
he's 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 friggin' trying,
Yeah,
And I just didn't appreciate the fact that I felt like it was more like a negative evaluation versus constructive criticism.
absolutely.
Whereas Katerina, as we have seen, yeah, she can be harsh, but she's honest and gentle.
I
Gentle
agree.
but harsh.
Yes, yes,
You
I
you
know,
can
it
be
sounds like a
both
paradox,
can
but
be true at the same time.
yes, they it is. It's like parenting with kindness, but also
Yes.
being firm. Yeah, it's totally
Well, there
possible to do opposite things at the same time.
yeah. It's congruence.
Yeah.
Is
So
that the right word?
I
That
I
one.
don't know. When Dolly says to Harold, these are two things that she says are constructive criticism. You should say something, start with something easy, say something easy, but then she doesn't give a concrete example of what that actually means. And I don't
Yeah.
even know what that means. And I think, not neurodivergent. Comment on your surroundings. What the? That's a lovely chair you're sitting in. How
I
awkward is that?
I am neurodivergent. And then I'm like, what are you expecting of me? So you're looking at like the concrete surroundings, and I'm like, I don't know. You feel like you've had a bad day. Your face looks like you've had a bad day. Like what are you looking at here? I can look at the stones, I can look at the rocks, I can look at all the other things. I can also look at you. I can look at your energy, your aura, like the energy that you're giving me.
I
What
just
are
found
we talking
it
about
was
here?
completely unhelpful what she was saying to Harold. If she had attached some examples to it that he could have understood more clearly, that would have been a different matter. But then she also says to him, "Oh, in your posture, you're too stiff. You're sitting forward with your hands clasped before you." And I agreed with her. Yeah, that does seem a little stiff. But then she said, "You should lean back in your chair." No,
Could you imagine if I
no.
leaned back wearing a
Leaning
low cut
back
shirt?
means that you're not
You're
interested. You're
lazy. You
going
don't care.
you're going away from the person. That shows that you are disinterested,
You're
not that you're
lackadaisical.
if you're leaning forward on the table and you're, like, coming towards a person and you're looking at them, that
That's interest.
conveys, "Thank you." But if you're leaning back, it's like, "Oh, I don't care, you say whatever you want." I mean, okay, so she talks a lot about the Singaporean woman as being attracted to masculine men who are in control and all this sort of stuff, and that makes me think that Harold is definitely in the wrong place. But if that's what you like, why.
But on the flip side, Harold is completely in control. Look at the job that he has. He's proficient in his job. He's travels all over the world doing what he does.
All over the States. All of the
Oh, I
states.
thought it was all over the
No,
world.
just the
Anyway, it's
states.
like he has a phenomenal job. Why don't you lean on that? Why don't you lean on that confidence?
Mhm.
You know how you can like go into this radioactive situation. How do you handle that? What does that look like for you? But she's not pulling on any of that. She's harping on his looks. She's harping on his posture. And I mean, obviously for the first interactions, I would never go on a date with a man who shows up wearing suspenders that are measuring tapes. I think that would be a massive turnoff. But if he comes out and he's funny, he's charismatic, he's got great conversation, it might sell me. But she's not encouraging any of that. I feel like she's dissuading him from being himself. And this is the second season that we've seen him now, and we know how incredible, or at least the cut that he's gotten, we know how phenomenal he is. And she's not highlighting any of that. She's not encouraging any of that. And I think we said this in the last episode. We were questionable about her. And I think he needs to move on from this matchmaker because I don't think she's helping in any capacity. I think she's really hindering his confidence.
I agree.
Am I wrong?
I don't think she's the right matchmaker for him. I think that
Thank you.
Katerina was much better suited to
Yeah.
understand Harold and to deal with his quirks. And I also think, based on what we've heard of how Dolly represents the women in Singapore, this is not my opinion because I have none. I've never been there. I don't know much about the culture at all. That he is possibly in the wrong place because he should be in a country that is much more open to women being dominant in the relationship rather than men having to be that typical manly man, the chauvinistic type,
Yeah.
and that's just not Harold. That's not who he is. And I don't think he's going to be able to pretend that's who he is.
And if that's the culture, I've never been to Singapore. That's not my forte. I know nothing about it. Though if that's what the dating lifestyle is like in Singapore, then why don't you tell him that this is not for you?
Mm-hmm.
Um like, is she wrong to tell him to change different things about him in order to adhere to the different cultural differences, or not adhere to the differences, meet the
The
the culture?
expectations, yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or does that mean that his personality, his neurodivergence, his goals, his aspirations are just outside of what this culture is?
That's what I mean by he's in the wrong place. He's not suited to this environment. If that is how it is, and we only have Dolly to tell us what it's like there in the dating scene, so we have to take her for her word. And we don't know if she's a reliable person yet.
We don't know.
No.
I'm sorry. I said so many more words than what you said so succinctly.
Let's read on and go meet our new dater, Victoria, who's 39 and she's from New York. She's a self described serial first dater.
75 first dates.
That is a lot.
And also, okay, first of all, the fact that you have counted 75 first dates,
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that's an exaggeration and that's not an actual solidified piece of data. And how many second dates? How many third dates? How many fourth dates? How many relationships have you had? She just focuses on this one number of 75 dates. I wouldn't be surprised if I've been on 75 dates, but there's no friggin' way I'd be able to calculate that.
I also
Why
hope that
are you leading with that?
I also hope that it's not an underestimate of how many first dates she has had, because that is also a possibility that she's had way more and she's never had a relationship or a second date or a third date.
Totally fine. But
Anyway,
it just seems so strange, like as an introduction. And also as an introduction, they go on about her hands. And as I'm talking about it, I'm like,
yeah, the moving hands. Victoria has decided to choose Ireland as her search area.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do they get to choose?
I'm under the impression that they are totally choosing of their own volition where they go.
Thank you. That was my question.
Who knows? She likes the idea of Irishmen for the accent, valid. It's a great accent. The drinking, that puzzled me a little bit. Ginger hair, okay. Everybody's got their thing. The humor, absolutely. Spot on for that one.
Oh, I don't know about Irish humor.
Very similar to British humor. And
Dry.
dry,
Excellent.
quick, and very witty.
Ugh, hard to understand though with that accent. I'm hard of hearing.
Okay, that's new. And then also, she believes or has been told that Irishmen are very appreciative of women who have breast implants because that is not a common thing there. Who knew?
I thought she said that they weren't appreciative.
No, they are, because she has
Oh.
implants and she wants them to
Oh,
be appreciated, which obviously they are not in the US as it is a much more common practice.
did we watch the same show?
That's what I'm asking myself too. Katerina is the matchmaker of choice.
We love her.
Hallelujah. We love Katerina.
Hallelujah.
Katerina identifies the following in Victoria. Victoria is desperate to date anyone. Anyone, she says.
Victoria says that she is an equal opportunity dater.
Sure.
And Katerina says that she is desperate.
I love Katerina. She's desperate. And moreover, as if that weren't enough, that Victoria is a chronic people pleaser.
Well, that too. Oh, I didn't write that down.
So
but
we
yeah.
have a couple of things happening with Victoria that should be interesting to see how they unfold in her dating world.
This is a mess.
I love how Katerina dissects Victoria's outfit when she lands in Dublin and she meets her at the airport. And she says, because she's wearing a tracksuit to be comfortable on the plane, that Victoria does not want to be seen or to be noticed. And I thought that was on the money, very perceptive.
Yeah, but she's not meeting the guy at the airport.
No, but like Katerina said, you never know when it's going to happen. What if you're sitting on the airplane and there happens to be a wonderful gentleman sitting next to you, and that happens to be somebody that you could have a relationship with, and you look like a sack of potatoes?
Fantastic, because I just got home, yesterday, and I wore track pants and a sweatshirt.
Uh-huh. And you didn't meet anybody on the
And-
plane, so it stands to reason that Katerina's
Well,
logic
I
works.
sure did, but she was a 63-year-old married woman who wants to go fishing with me.
You always meet the funniest people. That's awesome.
I didn't think. Oh, and Victoria was saying that Katerina was being so judgmental, and I thought,
How dare you?
you, ma'am, you need to take a step back.
Mamming? What's with the mamming? Everybody's a ma'am. She's a miss. Come on. No.
I think I hate to say it, but I feel like it's like one of those condescending things. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Granted, it
Like,
is.
Calm down, ma'am.
Yeah.
In this specific situation,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I've said this earlier. But anyway, I don't think she was being judgmental. I think she was being real and honest. And I really don't think that Victoria was ready for this.
Nope.
Like for the reality.
Nope.
And we have seen how real Katerina has been especially with Harold in the last season. So I'm so glad that she's continuing with her, just the way that she is. Like, I think she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really appreciate her. And I think that Victoria really needs to hear this, but I don't think she's ready. I think Victoria is going to call out Katerina and be like, you are not here for me. You're not supporting me. Blah, blah, blah. And then she's going to fire her and she's going to find someone new.
I think you are completely 100% accurate in your prediction. Victoria
Really?
is definitely going to fire Victoria. She is not ready. Not one iota, not one speck of her is ready for the criticism, for the realness of what Katerina has to offer. The way that she calls Katerina cold and tough as soon as Katerina offers anything that is at all
And judgmental.
a criticism, even though it's accurate and well-deserved and part of what she has been hired to provide, by the way, to her client, which is real honesty. And the way that Victoria is already dismissing the dates that she may have in the future, she doesn't even know yet, as random men who she won't even be interested in. It's like, you haven't even met these people and you've already decided that none of them are going to work out, that they're random men because you don't like what Katerina has just said to you. That
And
says
also,
so much.
do you really want to assess how good your judgment is if you've had 75 first dates and no marriages or no, like,
Relationship.
we don't know her actual like relationship history yet? 75 first dates.
Yeah.
And again, I may have 75 first dates, and that's fine, but I have also had decently long relationships, and I'm old. So, like, why is she fighting this?
It's interesting
What?
why she is fighting this, because she comes out saying that she's a people pleaser, or Katerina says she's a people pleaser, and yet she's already struggling so hard against Katerina and not trying to please Katerina. Does the people pleasing only apply to men?
I have a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
She's not ready.
You said that.
I already said that.
You said she's not ready twice. This is the
Oh,
third time.
okay, great. Well, I'm so glad that I stand by my previous
I
2 statements.
completely concur. She is not. There is no way she's ready. And it is fascinating that at 39, 39, she is not ready for a relationship. She's not ready to hear criticism, even though you would think after so many years of being single and of chronically dating people that you would not be asking these questions of yourself. Like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change? How can I improve? And maybe I'm looking for the wrong thing. I found the list, when Katerina asks her, what have you come up with for your list of the qualities of a man that you would like? And the first 3 things she lists are decent, valuable characteristics like kindness, compassion, caring, something like that. But then she immediately goes to the physical. He has to be at least 6 feet tall.
And she's like, what, 5 something?
She's barely
Like
5 foot.
low 5.
Yeah. But
Low 5.
4,
Sorry.
3, who knows? Maybe even 2 feet tall. But
somewhere below 5'4".
But she immediately goes to these physical attributes rather than focusing on what she was supposed to focus on, and which we see also in Monica, that you're supposed to look beyond the surface.
Yeah. And is it Amber as well?
Monica's the one who's the thirsty one.
Oh, she's the last one. Okay,
Yeah.
we haven't even gotten to her yet.
Anyway,
But
Victoria, I think, is going to be a whole lot of fun, and she's going to implode very, very quickly.
I think she's an absolute mess. I was so excited to see her because she's so exuberant, and I love that they called out her hand gestures.
Yeah.
As I sit on my hands. Because I'm like, what's wrong with the hand gestures? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being fun and outgoing?
Nothing.
But I feel like she might be a tsunami.
Yes.
Like, even more so than, was it Amber? Oh, and who was the other one from last season with the guy from Not Switzerland?
Not Switzerland doesn't narrow it down enough for me, I'm afraid.
She was the one that wore like those 12-inch heels to that knitting party.
Oh. Yes. I don't remember. I don't remember the names of anybody. Sorry.
You know who I'm talking about, though?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to come up later.
Okay. No worries.
And she was with that guy, and it was like the whole production thing. Like, they weren't even together. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, that's how I see her.
Okay. Let's read on, because I think if we've said all we need to say about Victoria, and it is really just like waiting for what comes next.
That's going to be exciting.
Yes. I can't wait. Let's go back to Monica. This is a brief scene.
Corona.
Yes. Corona and Inky? Yes. It is like that. But
delayed.
Yeah, that's a different situation because they were already dating. They were already in a fake relationship, right?
Oh, no, I know. It was similar with her just being so overabundant.
Oh, yes.
And him being so...
Yes. Back
anyway,
to Monica. She arrives in Sao Paulo. She's ready to date Bruno right away.
Love this.
Luisa gives her some advice. She says, you should really try to look beyond the surface when you're meeting somebody for the first time. not get so caught up in the physical, and try to find good conversation, because that's what endures. That's what lasts, what makes a relationship go for years and years. You think of what you would be like when you're older, when you're in your 80s. What is there to hold you two together but commonalities, good conversation? And the way that Monica reacts to this was so revealing. She really hesitates.
Mm.
And she says, but how can I know that they're being honest with me? And I was like, oh my God, Monica, time. You meet them over time, and that's how you find out if somebody's being honest with you. There's no like red light, green light to show you this is a lie, this is a truth.
I mean, there's red flags, green flags.
Yes.
But none of them are concrete. You have to spend that time together to be able to establish that trust, that understanding, and to get to know each other outside of the relationship. And this woman just wants to dive in face first into
Man.
a shallow end.
Abs.
A shallow end.
Yeah. She's really quite fascinating. So eager to get going, to go out into this dating world, and yet at the same time completely terrified. Is she? Maybe she is desperate. Yeah.
I think she's apprehensively desperate.
She's, like you mentioned last week, she's so caught up in the physical, in how somebody looks, and yet that is the thing that has kept her from getting into a relationship. She says that men want the next best, prettiest thing, so she gets overlooked because of that. She's repeating the same pattern in her own dating life. How is Louisa going to pull her out of this habit? I don't know, but a great first step that Louisa is taking is not to have Monica go out with Bruno as her first date. It's going to be Bernardo. And she gives Monica a task on this first date, which is to have fun. Okay, great, easy task, but also to ask questions. And I thought, that's brilliant, because what Monica needs is to sit down and really try to get to know somebody deeply, without judgment, without the shallowness, like you said. Get to know them, bring the conversation, and establish a connection that way.
Yeah.
Is she going to be able to do it? I don't know.
I highly doubt it. But I absolutely loved the bait and switch.
Yes. Bait and switch. Totally.
She got the video of Bruno, and she was so excited to meet this man. And then she gets that switch. And now you're not meeting the man that you thought you were going to meet. You don't have that immediate, or you don't have that physical
gratification.
Thank you. You know, she set herself up to meet this one guy who she was so physically attracted to. And then to be like, oh, hey, here's another dude who you may or may not be attracted to, but also it shouldn't matter. That's one of the main parts of dating. Yep. Like, if you only date people that you're physically attracted to, are you dating, or are you trying to date to find the perfect match for you? Oh, here we are wrapping it all up. The match me abroad. Like, I thought I had a type, dated outside the type. Well, it's not about me dating. Anyway, so we see all of these other people dating outside their type, and how well it works or how well it doesn't work. And how many people have we seen on 90 Day who date to their types and it doesn't friggin' work? You have to look outside the box if the box isn't working for you. That's not how this goes. None of this is a mathematical equation. It's not an aesthetic equation. Is there an aesthetic equation? Like, it's so ridiculous that people like, I need someone who's 6'4", who's under 200 pounds, who makes this much amount of money. What matters to you? Is it physicality? Is it money? Is genuality a word?
No, genuineness.
Gen
Yeah, if
I'll take that one.
absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
what matters
That's why
at
this
this
is
point?
such a great show, because we get to see people in whether or not they're able to overcome that in the dating world. Do they still keep the same habits of looking for people who are superficial or are superficially attractive to them? Are they able to assimilate the advice and the criticisms that they get from the matchmaker and overcome these obstacles? Are they, able to come out of their shell enough to be relaxed and calm and learn how to date in a quote unquote normal way, a neurotypical way? There's such a diversity of styles of dating out there, and so much on the spectrum of success and failure, that this is why this
It
show
doesn't even fit on the screen.
no, this is why this show is so fantastic, because we get to watch the progress or lack thereof, which is equally interesting, of
And this
these
is almost like
daters.
before the 90s.
Mhm. It's before Squared.
TLC, don't pick up this show.
No, 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 no. This is yeah, this is the pureness of what we see later on in the 90-day shows that becomes infected with the overly produced storylines.
And arguably, people who have been cast on 90 Day have never had the matchmakers.
Yeah,
It's all been genuine connections, which I
self-directed.
highly doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's so refreshing to see these different relationships and to see how the coaches, the matchmakers, how they match them, why they match them, and also how they coach them. And we've seen some failures, we've seen some successes, and I'm so, so, so looking forward to seeing how Harold does. He's my absolute favorite. I think my two favorite out of like reality TV show dating is David and Harold.
Great.
David found Sheila.
Yeah.
I'm very confident that Harold is going to find someone as well.
I hope so too. Just wanted to mention before we wrap up this show that next week, as there is no more 90 Day Fiancé that I know of and that you know of, right? I think so.
If there is, I would be surprised. But also, can we just say, yay?
Yay! Because we're not going to be discussing Happily Ever After. If ever a show was more poorly named, that's the one. We're just going to talk about Match Me Abroad from now on until this season ends, and then we'll figure out what's coming up next. So I look forward to next week, because we will have a show of just Match Me Abroad. No interference from 90 Day at all. It should be a lot of fun, and we hope you'll stay tuned. So before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.